Sorry. So I started now the video recording. So welcome to our last EMEA workstream call of the year. Yeah, not the last one, but for this calendar year. As usual, we have a really good lineup of guest speakers for our session today. So that's why let me go to the presentation mode here and share the agenda of today's call with you. Yeah, I'm really pleased that we have such a great lineup of guest speakers in our session today. So Stijn Grove from the Netherlands, he's heading up the DDA, the Dutch Data Center Association. He will share some key slides with us. So he will kick off the session. Followed by Andy Young from Asperitas. Andy Young is the CTO from Asperitas. He's also enlightening us what's happening in terms of emerging cooling there. And last but not least, we have Max Schulze. I think Max Schulze is not in the call yet, or Max, are you there?
Stefan, there is still a first slide on the screen.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for this. Can you see my screen now? Is it better?
Now is better.
Okay, and then last but not least, Max will also end up the conversation, sharing some slides about the SDIA, the Sustainable Digital Infrastructure Alliance. And yeah, I will also then hopefully have some time to share some updates for the OCP European community. So this is what we are looking into at today's call. So Stijn, if it's okay with you, I will unshare my screen now, and then I would love you to share your screen and just talk us through your slides. Okay.
Perfect. Let me share my screen. Okay.
Perfect.
Can you now see the whole screen?
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. Excellent.
But
Okay, welcome
it is
everybody.
in wrong mode. You should switch the screen.
Sorry.
So it's like a presenter mode. You should shift for the another view to see the slides. Just
How do
start
I do
sharing the
that?
screen.
Okay. Is this better?
It's okay.
Right.
But in the bottom you have this book view.
Bottom right.
Yeah. Now I've done it,
bottom.
but let me. When it's switching over to another screen. Let me. It's always a drag to do this. Yeah, if I do it, I cannot switch the.
No worries. Just share as you've done it. So that's okay. That was there for a second.
No.
Now we can see your screen.
Okay,
Perfect. Please,
Please
the floor is all yours, Stijn.
Very good. Okay. Let me see if I can. Okay, very good. Welcome everybody. My name is Stijn Grove. I'm the managing director of the DDA, the Dutch Data Center Association, which is the trade association for data centers in the Netherlands. We represent the industry on the one hand and promote the industry. We represent around 90% of all data centers in the Netherlands capacity, around 41 operators, around 110 companies in the ecosystem around it. We have been in service since 10 years. We have 10 people in our office and yeah, very much focusing on representing and promoting the industry. established 2014. We're also aligned with the European Data Center Association, which is sort of like the umbrella association in Europe. We are also working in Belgium with the BDAA and very much involved in the European and national standard groups for data center, for the data center sector. Basically, a professional sector needs a professional representation. There's so many things going on in terms of developments. It's a relatively young sector, the last 30 years in existence, and the more we digitize, the more data centers also need to be represented in rules, regulation, policy, explanation, and therefore, you see that NTAs, national trade associations, are coming into play everywhere in Europe. When we started in 2014, there were 4. Now there are 24, and with the amount of rules and regulations that are coming from Brussels, I think it's very good to interact with the governments there, but also locally, to make policies that are fit for the industry, especially looking at EED, looking at lots of other rules and regulation that are coming into play. But also yesterday there was a big meeting about residual heat to see how we can solve blocking issues on that part. Our mission is to grow the sector in a sustainable, healthy, and stable way. So that's what we do, and we are counterparts for governments, but also the general public. Public affairs and promotion is what we do. So we also, in terms of promotion, have a lot of events. Kickstart Europe, it's the second largest event in Europe on investments and on strategy for the data center industry in Europe, in Amsterdam. So in February, close to 2,000 people coming there. But we also have a Green Data Center conference in October, which is more about innovation and on sustainability. And we have lots of other small events. We do around 10 publications a year, and these are free to download on our website. We have, in terms of public affairs, 4 focus areas: energy, sustainability, education, employment, digital economy, and resilience. And that's where we put most of our time in. Energy and sustainability is very much on the grid developments, on residual heat, on efficiency, education, employment. I've some very good news recently. We're working very much to get education off the ground. In the Netherlands, we have created a curriculum for that, but we now have, with help from the European Commission, got a grant with 6 other countries and 40 involved organizations to work on the next 4 years a standardized data center education in Europe, which is, I think, very good. It's a grant of 4 million, so we're very happy about that. Also very much focused on the digital economy, and very much on resilience. And that part we are also looking at, for instance, sea cable landings and other infrastructure related businesses. Like I said, Kickstart Europe. We also have a magazine, a European magazine, which is called Data Centered, very much focused on strategy, on insights. And we also have a platform with all data centers in EMEA on it, and lots of links and publications there. So on the one hand, we're focusing very much on the Netherlands. On the other hand, we're also doing a promotion in a European way. The more we digitize, the more we need digital infrastructure. So you see a lot of growth in that. The vacancy levels haven't been so low since I've been working in the data center industry. I think in the Netherlands it's 7%, in Amsterdam. In Frankfurt it's at this moment at 1%. So it's basically sold out. And with the demand that we're seeing from the market, we see more and more data centers. There's many challenges because the grid is full in many countries. So how to follow up on these challenges? So on the one hand, the demand, on the other hand, the impact that data centers have. So there's a very sort of like a natural way that we have to constantly make the next step in getting more efficient infrastructure so that we can so like solve the demand and yeah, grow further. One thing that we have so like done is also explain a little bit more about how the infrastructure in the industry is working. So we have created a digital economy model. One of the things that we see is that our governments, politicians, but also the general public do not understand our business. We also make it very difficult sometimes with all the acronyms, etc., to explain our industry. So that is also a big part of what we do, explain what we are, how things work. Because also in terms of rules and regulation, people need to know that, for instance, in a co-location data center, a customer is in charge of the IT equipment and not the co-location data center. So a lot of the rules and regulations do not see at this moment that divide. So a lot still needs to be done on that part. So basically also explaining the type of data centers. So from private to hyperscales, what the different things are, who the customers are, what the impact is, what the space dimensions are, and where they are located. So creating overviews of how the industry is made up. Also in terms of how they connect to each other. So you need regional data centers to make the system, the digital ecosystem work, but also the hyperscales, the international data centers, where the hubs are, and how they connect to national hubs. So an overview of, again, how the infrastructure, the ecosystem is connected. But also in terms of how our system, our economy is really relying on digital infrastructure, and what the impact is in terms of economy. So basically, if you look at so like GDP, 65% is already digitized, and in these are global general figures. But in Europe, it's even higher in Western Europe. So when there is no digital connectivity, when there are no data center services available, many companies already and organizations stop. So our income stops too. So this is really important. And I think if you look at so like critical infrastructure, vital infrastructure, there's a lot of laws and regulation, and data centers are all included now in that. But how is still something that we are, and so like the detailing of the text is something that still a lot of work needs to be done on that. Mm-hmm. But also in terms of the transitions that we're in, we want to be more resilient. We want to be more in control of what is happening. On the other hand, we're growing. We are pushing digitization, smart cities, Industry 4.0, AI. It all needs more digital infrastructure. So we see the growth of data centers, and that is also something where you see a lot of challenges because where to put them. You see a lot of NIMBY sentiments, not in my backyard. And that needs to be solved because we all want that digitization. We all are proud on, in the Netherlands at least, on ASML, which is one of the biggest companies in the Netherlands selling machines that make chips. But all these chips will go to data centers in the end. We're very happy watching a Netflix movie or are proud of a company that makes chips, but we need more data centers for that. And that understanding is also something that we are working on. Also explaining how many people working in the industry. These are the Dutch numbers. So we have around 11,000 people in and around data centers in the Netherlands. For instance, in the north of Groningen, where Google is, for instance, the largest employer in the northern part of that province already, while people think still that no people are working in a data center. So that is something that we try to explain all the time. But also in terms of people working in a data center per surface area, so an FTE per hectare, you see that data centers are not really that bad. They're actually far better than a lot of other industries in the Netherlands. And people do not know that. Also, in terms of in numbers, what are we talking about? So if you take a very broad definition, there are around 6,000 facilities in the Netherlands. These are small IT facilities, also many times in offices. But if you look at larger data centers, there are around 200 in the Netherlands. So, and you see that the smaller facilities are decreasing year per year, and they are moving towards a cloud or towards these larger facilities. And that gives also a problem because we are seeing more bigger data centers, but actually the smaller inefficient data centers are disappearing, which is good, and actually are decreasing in a rapid rate, and also with more electricity being transferred back to the grid. So in terms of numbers and figures, this is sort of like that. So you can see that the number of facilities is really decreasing the last couple of years, and that also keeps the energy use stable of data centers by centralizing it in larger data centers. Also, what we do is sort of like present the numbers. These are all from the Bureau of the National Bureau of Statistics. So the consumption figures of the Netherlands. Basically, yeah, there's a lot of. We also work with the Central Bureau of Statistics to have really facts about the industry, because if you look at media, we consume all the water in the Netherlands, but it is actually 0.08% of the water consumption, which is very, very limited. It's one of the smallest sectors in the Netherlands. So there's a lot of perception which is wrong, and having good national government facts is something that is really helpful, and we work on that. Also, comparisons to other sectors, I think, except for the electricity consumption, the impact is very small. So if you then also compare it to other countries, there are 5 countries at this moment only that do official monitoring of the data center industry. And you see that they're more or less around 3% of the energy use of the country. It will increase slightly year upon year, but that's basically something which is also insightful, that actually in the Netherlands is not really that big of a difference with Belgium or with Germany. Ireland is a little bit different. They have 10% of the electricity, and I think it's already even more. We also know that Denmark is higher than the rest because of the more hyperscale data centers that are positioned there. Hopefully more central bureaus of statistics will monitor the industry. I think it's vital to monitor also to if you do energy efficiency, you need to also monitor. Yeah, what I already said, by migrating it to central locations, we save energy. So the Dutch government is a big example. It closed down 64 smaller data centers and migrated it to 5 and halved their energy consumption. Unfortunately, in the monitoring, it went wrong because people only see that there are 5 more data centers, but overall the total is that it's half their energy use. So that's also something to work on in terms of perception. Also, a lot of things that we have worked on are a big topic that we worked on is residual heat. We call it data thermia because all the other geothermia, sewage thermia are called like that. So we have called it in the Netherlands data thermia, or waste heat or residual heat. But we have 28 projects ongoing. In 2017, we made a big announcement saying you can have all our heat for free, come and get it. So most data centers in the Netherlands have been built with already the possibility to supply heat. The Netherlands is a country with lots of natural gas and get natural gas network. So that is something that there are hardly any heat projects or heat networks, sorry. But in terms of heat projects, I think we're the largest in Europe. So that is really good if you look at the data center projects. And the main challenges is getting more heat networks. It doesn't matter what technique a data center has. All the 28 projects at this moment are air-cooled data centers. It will get better if there are more liquid or other cooling methods being used, but it has nothing to do with the technique. The focus is really we need more heat network infrastructure. Without that, we cannot reuse the heat. So that is our big focus, and get rid of really blocking issues and regulations. We have worked a lot on, at this moment, for instance, a couple of years ago, residue or the data center heat wasn't really in the rules and regulation, in the calculation methods. And even though green energy had to be used with new buildings, data center heat wasn't seen as green heat. So we had to change that. We had to change the calculation method. So it became favorable towards gas, towards other ways of heating houses. So I think, and if you look at many countries, that's still a big issue. So blocking regulations is a real issue. But also in terms of the current heat networks that are connected to, for instance, power plants, they want to keep their business model. They don't want us as the data center sector deliver heat. So there is also a big issue there. And other things that we see is that standardized contracts on delivering heat is an issue. So there's a lot of delay in getting things into place. Also at this moment, our government has nationalized heat networks, which is also slowing down the deployment of heat. So there's a lot of big issues, and I think what I many times hear in the industry, we're only looking at the technique technique isn't really a relevant issue at this moment. It will improve the outcome of the heat, but the real issues is building heat networks and getting the blocking issues out of the way, because otherwise it will not happen and you cannot use the heat. There's a real good map also by OCP, done by Cosimo from Alpha Laval or I think he recently left, about all the maps or all the data center heat projects in the world. So it's also focusing on the US there. All right. Yeah, also what we focus, and then I stop, there's a lot of regulation going. This is only on the digital side. On the sustainability side, there is a lot of other things going on. We try to follow this, provide feedback. That's a lot of work, because otherwise things will, yeah, they do not really understand the industry yet that well. So there's a lot of things going on in Brussels and in each other countries to align that. And for that, we work a lot with the EU trade, EU DCA, to organize all the efforts for tracking that regulation and changes in regulation. And one of the things that we do is, for instance, also explaining this to our members, what is happening, what is the timeline, what is expected. So these are the things that we provide to our members with links and more info. One of the things that you might have heard on is the Climate Neutral Data Center Pact, which is, I think, a really good way where we have taken the responsibility to set boundaries ourselves as an industry, being climate neutral in 2030, focus on water usage, on residual heat. So we had a session yesterday also in Brussels on that with the Commission. So in this, also with this initiative, we have a lot of very positive interaction with the European Commission, and we are basically that also improves, I think, the regulation being made, because they are actually already seeing a lot of KPIs, a lot of very well explained mechanisms, and we're in very good constant talks with DG Energy and DG Climate on things that are happening there. Yeah, this is my last slide. I think we can only solve this together. I think that our industry needs to take responsibility. Luckily, I think it's one of the industries sectors that do that already. But we need to, with the growth of our industry and the demand there is, work more with governments and rethink constantly what we're doing. Yeah. That will also, our data center industry is always changing, and it will change in a quicker rate. So, but we need to do it together. I hope I give you with this a good overview of what we do, how many things, what we're busy with, and if you need more information, you can always reach out, and happy to talk further on that. So that was my presentation.
Perfect, Stijn. Thank you very much. It's appreciated. Many thanks for sharing all the great things you guys are doing in the Netherlands. I think we have half an hour left, but of course, to all participants, do you have some questions straight away you would like to ask Stijn?
I want just to comment that it's a great comment that there is no technical issue, but the issue with the heat user that should be stimulation to shift from fossil to the this heat from data centers. Until you didn't accept all the heat from data center, don't burn the gas. It should be like this work. And another interesting point that you mentioned, that you have a lot of already existing installations of heat reuse. So it will be great if you can share that with us, and we will put that on the map more on OCP heat reuse map. But overall, it's great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So,
Yeah, I
Alright.
I wanted to.
Yeah, I do. Hi, everyone. It's Leslie from OCP. Thank you very much for the presentation. I do have a quick question. Do you have experience with open source technologies?
Well, yeah, there are many open source technologies in our data center industry. But as a trade association, we do not really that much focus on technologies. That is something that data centers need to do themselves. Of course, we are. If there are really big positive developments there, we are always listening and liaising with the sector how we should react on this. So, but we are not very much involved. We focus on very much on the rules and regulation on the one hand, and bringing the information towards the members, etc., if that is needed.
Okay, excellent. And I do have a second question regarding the education. So you mentioned that you have some activities around the education. Can you tell me a little bit more? Is this education focused on the data center specialist?
Yeah, we have created two curricula for mid-level technical engineers, so data center engineers, data center IT engineers that are more customer focused, and they are sort of like add-ons in the national schools for electronics, electricity, and climate. Yeah, instead of working for like the general industrial climate, they learn what it is like to work in a data center and the specifics that are involved in our sector. And then we're now expanding that in Europe with sort of like a standard curricula and also moving towards high-level technical schools and even further.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, there's one more question. Raoul is raising his hand. So Raoul, please.
Hi, Stein. Excellent presentation. I mean, I want to focus on actually, let's say, the perception side of things. I mean, it's actually very apparent that the media is actually painting a picture which is actually fairly different, seeing it from the data that you shared. So I'm actually pretty curious about the references on your figures on let's say on resources consumption that you showed before. So it would be nice if you can share the presentation alongside with the sources.
Raoul, I also want to confirm that in France it's the same 3%, and I will also put that to our chat where we can find information. Very precise about that.
Thank you, David.
Cool. Thank you.
And all presentations will be also shared on our wiki page.
Yeah, I just have a question with regard to the hyperscaler. What is very interesting in your presentation is you are monitoring the hyperscaler. Usually they are quite hidden under the colo. So how do you manage these numbers on the hyperscalers?
The numbers on the hyperscales in terms of well, we monitor the size, and we monitor general size from public sources, and we have the overall energy use by the Central Bureau of Statistics, and we know how many hyperscales are present in the Netherlands. So these are the numbers that we monitor.
Okay, guys, I think I also need to do a bit of timekeeping here. I think we need to move on. Yeah, staying contact details are I think available and clear. But of course, if you still would like to have his details, I'm happy to share them with you. And then, of course, you can have a one-to-one conversation with Stijn. So yeah, Andy is jumping in already. So Andy, please, it's all yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Andy Young. I'm the CTO of Aspertas. We're based in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. And you probably have heard of us already. We are an immersion cooling company. We provide the technology and services to the industry. So today, I have this opportunity, and thanks very much for the invite, to introduce you to Aspertas. I'm going to focus on a number of key points. What it actually is, our technology, so that you can understand a bit more about immersion cooling generally. The value proposition that we have for where we find industry value immersion the most. So what can it do for them? And then I want to talk about a little bit about some topics which came up in the previous presentation, just to link things across into the cost of ownership and some of the various gives and gets of adoption of immersion in the data center sector from a infrastructure perspective, which is where we see the major payout for adoption of immersion being, because it's not about the tank, it's not about the chips, it's about what it can do for your business, in fact. And that's a great thing, because that's how a lot of decisions are made. Just first of all, in case you've not met me before, I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm based in Sheffield in the UK. I previously worked with Isotope Technologies, who are a chassis-based immersion cooling system as well, and moved to work full-time for Aspertas 3 years ago. So my role is mostly field CTO nowadays, but I love R&D. And when I get the chance to get in a lab, get behind the screens with the engineers to do some good engineering, then I always take that. And it's a great way to bring back the requirements of our products and services to the technical team so they can make the best technology solutions for our customers. Okay, so here's our technology. By the way, is this image overlaid with your images, or can you see this map and this lovely picture of clouds? Okay, without, however.
We see.
Okay, great. I can see our faces, which is great because we're all handsome guys and whatever. But okay, great. So yeah, so this is an example of immersion cooling solution placed in the white space alongside some air-cooled racks, and it's a great illustration for HPC workloads. In this case, it's for Shell, where we're cooling equivalent workloads to what you see in those cooled racks in a single tank, without any load on the air. Cooling and recovering 95% of the heat to liquid for heat rejection with effectiveness, or heat recovery to reduce the bottom line, or as you say, to give it away for free, which is nice. So, and you can see a map. This is where we're based in South Amsterdam. Why do I have a picture of cloud? Well, people often ask, what is Aspertas? What is the name? Well, it's actually something that you can Google. You'll come up with 2 references, one of which is relevant, the other is just for entertainment. So it's a cloud formation, which is a reference to cloud computing and to the natural convection basis of our cooling system, which itself is obviously something which is a driving factor in weather systems. The other rather entertaining meaning of the word Aspertas is it's a genus of snail. So those of you who like snails, you can find an Aspertas snail, but we prefer the cloud reference. It's far more relevant. Our role in OCP was really at the initiation of the immersion cooling project within OCP that was made by Rolf Brink, our co-founder, and he's still the co-leader of the OCP immersion group today, alongside John Bean from GRC. I myself have got involved in OCP, hence why I'm talking to you today. And I co-lead the signal integrity work stream alongside Kai Wang from Intel. Great way to learn lots. I didn't know a lot about signal integrity when I started that work stream up, and it is super relevant for the industry, as it's the second most relevant performance area alongside thermal performance, which is important for all types of immersion cooling. I'm also active in a range of different work streams, particularly the total cost of ownership work stream, where we are lead contributors of the model. The first release of the model will be made this month. I'm going to give you a sneak preview. You're the first to see it today. And we also contributed in a lead role to the first release of the immersion guidelines and contributed to the second release of those guidelines. Worked collaboratively with Intel on the base specification for fluids for immersion, and have proposed a thermofluids work stream alongside the existing ones, as I believe it's the one that's missing, or one of those which is missing from the set. So we have a strong presence in OCP. Here's our product, just to give you an idea. This is our Asperitas immersion computing platform based on natural convection. The key here is that it's using natural convection, so it's highly reliable. There's no pumps, nothing to break, no moving parts other than the fluid itself, and the fluid moves by the virtue of temperature differences in the same way as any heat will cause natural circulation. This means it's super reliable. There's nothing to break, super efficient. There's nothing to consume energy, and it's also got a dual hull, so it contains the dielectric in your white space with extremely low risk for any fluid exiting the tank. I don't want to go on too much about the product because I know it's not meant to be a commercial pitch, but this was just a great way to show you how our technology works. It's capable to cool up to 44 kilowatts of heat on a 24U platform, where you can cool densities up to 1.8 kilowatts per U. So it's capable to manage most of today's workloads, and it's extremely deployable for pilots and so on. Yeah, are there any questions on this at this point in time, or shall I keep moving on? I shall keep moving on. Okay, so the way that we approach the development of our technology isn't technology first, it's customer first. And we commissioned a company called Omdia last year to survey a range of data center operators and other companies within the supply chain and industry to discover what were the most critical challenges they faced. And it broke down into 4 sections, as you can see on the screen. Performance, in terms of whether you can cool a workload. Cost, of course, which is really based around energy and other supply chain constraints, and in particular skilled workers. And I'm thrilled to hear the great work that's been done by the previous speaker's organization on education. It's key in this industry on many different levels. Reliability, of course, for all tier levels, reliability is critical, but in particular for tier 3, tier 4, and sustainability. So we are all awake and aware of the impact that data centers will have now and will have in a compounded way, an exponential way going forwards. And we're thrilled to hear from the great and the good of the industry that liquid cooling and immersion cooling is certainly part of the solution. But this is an interesting wheel, and we use this to explore the requirements of customers and other interested people in the industry. And you know, it's a great way to drive at both our product development processes and also the formation of business cases for adoption at scale and piloting of technologies on the data center. We also work with ODM for servers and OEMs for chips. And we have a process that we have exercised multiple times and educating the server OEMs that we work with in how to prepare the IT equipment for immersion. It used to be that you had to be super careful, but now we have great immersion ready equipment coming onto the market, and we have a lot of liquids, many of which are very similar from a chemical constitution perspective, that the materials compatibility is quite well assured. You still have to check it though, just to be certain. The mechanical fit and the ability to lift and place the chassis into the tank, the thermal performance, and as I mentioned at the top of the talk, the signal integrity performance as the power density at the chassis level is increasing, at the socket level is increasing, and the data rates within the communication transmission lines of the PCB connectors and interfaces is increasing. We have to do a three-step process: a feasibility, which is a benchtop desktop process; prototyping, which is lab scale physical validation; and then duration, where we test essentially a burn-in process on the IT in an immersed environment. So that's the three-step process which we use, and as you can see from Gigabyte and from other server ODMs, immersion-ready servers are coming online, and that's only going to help the adoption within the industry. I just want to circle back a little to the TCO model, which I said we're going to release this month through the OCP TCO immersion cooling workstream. Here's a sneak preview for you. So, and what I'm showing you here is the outputs from the modeling process. What it does is it compares an air-cooled solution to an alternate solution, which may itself be air-cooled using different heat rejection systems, for example, or immersion cooling, as is this case here, which has a obviously different heat rejection processes, which are much more fluid-spaced. And it makes a comparison on technical business terms in the following ways. So we compare the high-level metrics for energy efficiency, energy recovery potential, water usage. Those are the top three. I think these are the same three that have been preferenced and now mandated by the German government for new data centers going forwards above a certain scale. And of course, for the business case, we also have information here for the CapEx impact and the OpEx impact of the facilities based on these two alternate technologies. In this case, it's a greenfield site that we're assessing. And then we can break things down into the heat recovery potential, the carbon impact of the utility, the water usage of utility and equipment, the floor area requirements, and hence workload densities. So this is a tool which is going to be released. And what I'm looking for from this group is just any feedback that you have, guys, on these metrics. Are there any metrics here that you feel are missing that are critical for?
And my just feedback that if we look for the energy on the top one, air-cooled and immersion, that is the impact on energy grid of the country, right? That we release much more energy for the other industries, or we have opportunity to increase, let's say, by 40–50% our IT load with the same power input. And this is very important, because if we evaluate how much we need to invest capex on the energy generation, it's no matter is it wind turbines or solar panels or combined heat power. It's not in that. It is country energy grid. And this is the most important point for Ireland, for example.
Yeah, it's a very good. So that would be the difference between the. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but on the utility
Yes,
power
we see.
reduction, yeah. So yeah,
Yes, it's a side of that center. It's a energy country scale impact.
So energy release for other. So this is a win-win. You get a reduction in your OPEX, and the utilities network has a reduction in the. Well, there's more availability for other industries and domestic. So I guess, David, I should model Ireland now as well as just a data center. Yeah.
But it's actually for all countries the same.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I was joking. Yeah. Okay. Any other feedback or questions on the metrics that we're using here to assess performance or viability?
Andy, are there more slides to come? Again, timekeeping. We
One
have
or
9
two, I
minutes
think.
left, basically.
Yeah.
Sorry.
One or two.
Okay.
Shall I roll forwards and then we can?
Please go ahead and
yeah. So this is, as I said, this is going to be released this week. In fact, it gets released tomorrow in the TCO call. We're looking for beta testers to basically try and break this spreadsheet or use it. Will be more constructive and feedback. We're going to be adding more features to this, of course. And right now, I'm switching to focus on documentation and robustness. I guess I'm following this 3-step process in the TCO tool as well. Just to close, we have some great news as well to mention that we've been successful along with a group of other universities and commercial companies to receive funding for European funding for an important project which is of common interest in Europe on cloud infrastructure services. And as part of that, we will be launching a data center test lab in collaboration with the University of Twente and the TNO. It's a 5-year project, which is one of the ways in which we can enable interested parties to experience immersion and to develop the next generation of technology to extend the viability of this platform. That's me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I have also a couple of questions, but I think if it's okay with you guys, also to be fair to Max is still waiting to share his slides. If you have some questions to Andy, please, I'm happy to share his details, Andy, if you don't mind, and then send them directly to Andy. Because I would love also Max to share his slides with us. Max, can you share your screen? And be aware we have 5 minutes left. I'm sorry about that.
I would do turbo. It's okay.
Yes, but we can a little bit overlay because I think.
Okay. Max, please go ahead.
Presentation, yes.
Yeah, I do turbo, and then you can ask me questions, and then if it takes longer to answer the questions, then I also have a few more minutes extra. Okay, Max, you hopefully know me at this point. Angry man on LinkedIn, shouting at data centers. No, I'm kidding. Founder of the SDA. I'm not going to introduce. If you want to look at the SDA, go look at it. In November, we did a very large event, just to give you a short update on that, which was about sustainable software, or as the German government likes to call it, green coding. It was completely sold out, 200 people in the French Dome. And there is a growing awareness, that's my main message to you, that software is creating the environmental impact through its infrastructure, so data centers or digital infrastructure, so that software also carries a responsibility. And a lot of these people here were really keen to figure out, like, okay, but what can I do then? Can I shut down servers? Can I reduce my consumption? Or can I change providers? Can we change procurement, etc.? What was very funny is, unlike the data center sector, these people were all shouting for clear regulation. So they wanted actually that software is also heavily regulated to drive transparency, to get data from the cloud providers, and to make sure that everybody's measuring the same way and things like this. It was very uniform. When you look at the recordings, I think you'll see it. Now, what the SCA is going to do next year is we're going to focus on 3 key programs alongside with a transformation that I would talk in a bit about. The first one is to educate policymakers, because we have identified that one of the largest root causes, aside from many people across the value chain still not talking to each other, but that's getting better. We have found that a lot of policymakers do not understand the connection between, for example, the digital infrastructure and the digital economy, or so to say, like the link between a product like Salesforce or SAP running in the cloud, all the way down to how does that impact our national or European infrastructure. That link is not so clear all the time. And also, what are the different policy levers? I will show you a picture for that in a sec, that they can apply. So educating policymakers, one program. Second program, something we still think is very important. If you want resilient and sustainable infrastructure, we believe it needs to be regional, so very distributed, not edge, but like really regional IT ecosystems, so that you have local IT support, you have local IT services combined with local digital infrastructure in certain regions, and then also enable trade. And the third piece that we're going to focus on next year is this whole paradigm of sustainable software, because like software drives the requirements for infrastructure. It doesn't matter if it's AI or if it's a software as a service application. There's an enormous power of software to redefine how infrastructure is built. And if you know our roadmap, there's a lot of things that still need to be solved, that can be driven down by the software. So on the policy, so I'll give you like just a kind of like a taste of each program, so that you have an idea what we're going to do. And if you have questions, ask me after or reach out to me. The first one is something that now hangs in most German ministries. It's no joke. This hangs on the wall framed. It's our taxonomy. It's our way of explaining how the entire digital realm works in a very simplified, non-humanistic way. So it's a very technocentric, so very technical diagram, but extremely simplified. And we have also case studies around this. We did a summer school last year on this. But this is a model, we call it a school of thought. It's a model to...
someone please mute your phone if possible. Hello? Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry.
So I'm not going to explain it to you. If you're curious, I'm happy to explain it in another context. We have case studies around this. And the main idea, if you look at the colors here, is that there is, can I get a laser pointer? Yes, I can. Where's my laser pointer? Oh, this is in PowerPoint. One sec. There. If you look up here, this is the virtual side. So everything up here physically doesn't exist. It's the stuff that you lose when you unplug a data center. All of this goes away. And the interface between, so to say, digital infrastructure and software is the digital resources. So if you think about it, your laptop is essentially a device that converts energy and resources like metals and rare earths into computation, memory, storage, and networking capacity, or in other words, the ability to process, store, or transfer data. And this is what software people talk about all day. They consume those resources, but they do not consume a data center, right? And so that's something very important that also a lot of policymakers need to understand. So that digital infrastructure generates resources that software consumes, right? But digital infrastructure is a block of buildings, energy, hardware, networking equipment. It's a lot more complicated than just the building. But ultimately, the switch between analog and digital happens at this layer. So the digital infrastructure producing digital resources that software can consume. And when you apply that model, then you can say, oh, then we can have the environmental footprint, for example, for each digital resource. Yes, we can. And then the software can say, I consume 100 digital resources. which converts into the following environmental impact. And it makes the physical analog or the digital analog conversion a lot more transparent, a lot easier. So you can see this school of thought already. It makes it a lot easier to talk about this stuff. So and I think a common language, a common taxonomy is very important. If you're curious, if you're like a nerd, it's an actual paper, a peer-reviewed academic paper. You can find it in the database of the Commonwealth. We originally wrote it as an educational tool for developing countries, and it evolved into also actually that Western people are like, oh, we could also use this. So you can find the paper. Good. What's my time like? I'm already over time, so I'll go even faster. Sorry. My taxonomy, I'm really passionate about that. So regional, I said, is the second program, facilitating regional cloud. 3 main levers. One is doing more events. We did it last year already in Düsseldorf to kind of think about what does a Düsseldorf or this specific part of Germany ecosystem look like. And the other very large thing that we're doing, we're actively working to drive the unbundling of cloud. And to open a competitive market for other actors to exist. There was a great study from Ofcom, which we replied to, and in the final study of Ofcom, you can see we are cited about 15 times. So our work here, our thinking on how to restructure the cloud market is very influential in that sense. And the third piece, of course, is we're doing also a certification together with TCO aimed at regional hosting and cloud providers, that they have a way to differentiate themselves for procurement in the regional context. Last one, Shema, hurry, 1 more minute. Sustainable software program, very simple. So there we have essentially 3 major positions. We want more software engineers to be aware, architects, software engineers, everybody involved in the software trade, to be aware of the environmental impact they're creating through the infrastructure that is being built for them. The second part is transparency. We think that this, I stole from a yogurt, I think, if I remember correctly. We think that every software product should have an environmental product declaration, similar to how we have an ingredient list for every piece of food. So how much resources are in here, how much energy is in here. This is definitely possible, and we already there's multiple standards on the way in the ISO and in Europe to do this, and I think that would be a real game changer for software. And yeah, the third part is standardization of measuring the environmental impact of software. There's still too many ways of doing it, so we are aiming to drive those standards. We sit on all the boards at the moment for all these standard developments in the software space. Yeah, that's it. Oh no,
Thank
wait.
you very much.
Thank you very much. Wait, 10 seconds.
Please.
This is important because I keep forgetting to say this out loud, because we do this a little bit in secret, but it's now, in January, will be very official. So we are turning the SDA from a non-voting industry association with members supporting the roadmap to a European think tank that's completely independent and is also then a full charity. So there's no members in that sense. Driving this taxonomy and a more larger scale vision for our digital future forward. This has the disadvantage that we have no members at the moment. So actually in July, we already terminated all members, and that we're changing our funding structure a bit. But we believe that this is really missing, like, one independent place that thinks about what does the digital future of Europe actually look like, and what are the policies that we need to get there. Now I'm done. Sorry, Stefan.
Perfect. So thank you very much, and apologies that you needed to rush through your slide deck. Apologies to the full team for my bad time management. This time it didn't work out for the first time. So I also, Andy was also so kind. He shared his email address to the team. But of course, if you haven't seen that, please come back to me, and I'm happy also to share, if Andy is agreeing, his contact details. Also, thank you, Andy. Also from Max, so you can also have questions directly with 2 of them. I have also 2 more slides. I just a couple of, but I want is one more slide I would like to share. Let me share my screen here, because I think, and again, allow me this to do. I think, let's see if I can have. I would like to share. No, it's not. No. This is
That's mine.
it's not mine. Hang on. Where's my slide deck now? Now time is pressuring. Okay, there we go. Just one more slide I would like to share with you guys. Please bear with me here.
I'm excited to see the slide now.
Yeah.
Built it up so much. It's a really good slide.
Hang on. Now I need to share my screen now. Okay, sorry guys for all this, especially. Okay, just one more here. Because this I wanted to share with you, and then of course I will really terminate today's call. So I think these are quite good news from my understanding. So we are extending our OCP EMEA team. Yeah, so you can see those two guys there. We are leading these calls on a monthly basis, but of course now we are really in the process to have dedicated people in dedicated countries or regions within the EMEA region. Starting here from the left-hand side, he's also in the call. This is Stefan Hack. He's located in London. He will really focusing within our team on the UK market, including Ireland. Then, of course, Francois is also there. He's also on the call. He's focusing on France. We have Jérôme, also part of the team. He's focusing on the Benelux. I will keep on focusing on the German-speaking markets, on the DACH region, but also will handle Eastern Europe, Central Eastern Europe here. And we are also talking to someone who will hopefully also taking care of the Nordic region, yeah, of the Scandinavian countries, including Iceland. Yeah, that we have really a focus dedicated to these various sub-regions or countries within the EMEA region, yeah, because only two guys cannot handle everything, yeah, and of course, as you know, all business in the end of the day is local, yeah, and that we're really happy that these people agreed to work together with us.
Stefan and Raul for Iberia.
Hey, Raul, this was not my fault. So yeah, this was my fault, but this was not. Raul is also taking care of the Iberia. He needs to be included here. He's taking care of Spain and Portugal.
If I'm not on the list, I'm not going to do the work. So you know.
No. So it was my fault. So you should be also here. So yeah, we have really people now extending our group. So we're sharing the workload and hopefully also. So if you are in these countries, yeah, please reach out to the dedicated people here. And we're really happy that we are able to do this move and people agreed to work together with us. Yeah. So this is what I wanted to share with you. And of course, this is also something I would like to thank you that you also join these calls on a regular basis. Enjoy the festive season. Hopefully, it's the pre-festive season is not as stressful as every year, and you can also then spend some time with your beloved ones. Happy New Year already, and ideally mark this in your calendar. Ideally, dial in again and join us at the 9th of January for our next call. Okay, thank you very much. You take care and talk to you all soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, thanks.
Bye-bye.